Hello there. This is Ted Malone with Westinghouse, maker of more than 30 million electrical appliances for the American home. And if I sound as if everything's going around and around, it's only because everything is going around. I mean it. All over the country these days, on hundreds of turntables, recordings of all kinds of music are spinning round and round, sending sonatas and swing songs out on the airwaves. You know, every day on your local ABC station, there's at least one program of recorded music, classical or popular songs or request numbers, and the man around the station who tells you which record is coming up next is called, for some reason, or for no reason, the disc jockey. Yesterday, Paul Whiteman, the dean of modern American music, went into a spin and joined the ranks of the disc jockeys, the Whirling Dervishes of radio. His new program, the Paul Whiteman Club on ABC, is the first coast-to-coast radio program to be devoted to recording. To celebrate this unique event, we're having a convention today. You see, we've asked Paul Whiteman and a great number of his colleagues, the disc jockeys on a lot of our American Broadcasting Company stations, to stand by their microphones, ready to visit with us a few minutes from now. As far as we can find out, nothing like this has ever been, I was going to say done, I better say attempted before. A broadcast interview with so many guests all at the same moment. A whole platoon of platter players. And it's going to be fun to see what happens. Paul Whiteman, our network jockey, and Pat Barnes, our local WJZ jockey, representing all the other jockeys who couldn't join us today, are here to help me call the convention to order in just a minute. But first, let's give Chappie a spin.
Well, now, thank you, Ted. Friends, are you going to spin around a lot this summer? Then have a record holiday. Take a truly good portable radio with you wherever you go. You'll find the Westinghouse 148 is built exactly to your requirements. It's handsome, sturdy, light in weight. And what's more, the 148 is powerful. It brings you more stations and you hear them better. It has double the sensitivity of similar pre-war sets. Yes, and it gives you instant operation at the turn of the switch on AC or DC house current or on batteries. An ideal companion for parties, seashore, traveling, the 148 costs surprisingly little for so much in a portable radio. A radio by Westinghouse. See and hear it at your dealers. Ask for it by number. Remember, the 148. Listen, and you'll buy Westinghouse. And now back to our Westinghouse roving reporter and storyteller and disc jockey MC, Ted Malone.
Like democracy and apple pie, the disc jockey is an American institution. He rides his turntable around every corner on just about every radio station, accompanying his records that he and his listeners choose with his own smattering of platter chatter. His record library usually includes everything from Cavalleria Rusticana to cement mixer putty putty. But since most disc jockeys work more or less ad lib, the success of a program depends a good deal on how fast their own wheels go around. And most jockeys spin a very fine brand of yarn between recordings, which is proved by the popularity of these tycoons of the turntable. The disc jockey's beat is not a new line, however. Back in 1920, a Pittsburgh Westinghouse engineer named Frank Conrad constructed the first real radio station in the loft over his garage. He soon found that some of his neighbors who had home-built crystal sets were picking up his conversation with other ham operators in the vicinity. This was fine, but Dr. Conrad couldn't keep talking all day and all night for his fans, so he hit upon the idea of putting recorded music on the air. So Westinghouse's Dr. Conrad and his two young sons became the first disc jockeys in the history of radio. That was a small and informal beginning for a kind of entertainment that's still informal nowadays, but which has turned the turntables on the rest of radio and gone big time. Time was when a disc jockey was the man who stayed up all night, slept all morning, and yawned all afternoon. He had the dog watch, and it was a dog's life. While most of the world was asleep, he's been busily developing some wonderful new shows. And now, at last, he's being recognized, coming into his own with some famous recruits joining in. And tops to us, of course, is Pops. Paul Whiteman, ABC's Director of Music. Paul Whiteman started out as a taxi driver during school vacations in his hometown, Denver. Maybe he caught the music fever doing solo work in traffic jam sessions. Or maybe he caught it from his father, who was superintendent of music in Denver high schools, and of course a devotee of music, classical music, that is. The king of jazz started out as a classical musician, playing viola with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. Got a little too much rosin on my own bow there for a minute. But it wasn't long before he organized his own band back in 1919, a 9-man band with a new style and a future that's still unfolding. Yes, Paul has been making musical history ever since. His concerts, band engagements, records, and radio programs through the years have kept him #1 on everybody's hit parade. And now he's blazing new trails with the very first program of recorded music that goes coast to coast, the Paul Whiteman Club, with Pops himself as disc jockey. It went on the air yesterday. And so today we're saluting him and the hundreds of other disc jockeys of the American Broadcasting Company stations across the country. This is going to be a real clam bake. There may be a few pauses. In fact, there probably will be a lot of brief pauses, but this is the way it's going to work, I hope. I have some questions I want to ask our friends, the disc jockeys, and I'm going to ask them, and they're going to answer simultaneously, but you're going to hear just one answer. And now, I want you to meet a friend of yours, one of our ace disc jockeys.
Hello, Ted Malone, and all Ted's friends around town. My name is Pat Barnes, and my program of platters with chatter is the Barnes Bandbox, which goes on the air at 12:05 midnight.
Thanks, fella. And I'd like to go on record to the effect that show of yours is a lot of fun all around. Now, what kind of recordings would you say you use most on your program?
Well, Ted, we always like variety around here, so we use some ballads and some real jazz, and sometimes classical music, too. Some of our best discs are old favorites, but of course, we're always looking for good new records, too.
Just between ourselves, what kind of record do you really enjoy most yourself? If you didn't have to please anybody but yourself, would you play swing or schmaltz or Scarlatti or what?
Well, confidentially, Ted, I like quiet recording, anything soft and soothing, so I can sit down and relax and think up what I'm going to say next. You know how it is. The peaceful moments in the radio business are few and far between.
And what kind of recordings do your listeners like best? In all those letters and phone calls and telegrams, what kind of music do the folks ask for most often?
Well, of course, they ask for recordings made by singers and bands which are currently most popular. But there are a lot of requests for oldies that seem to have personal associations, things like Make Believe and Stardust and I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now.
I can see why a disc jockey never has a dull moment. Paul Whiteman, of course, is new at this game, and he has a few questions he'd like to ask Pat Barnes here in New York and the rest of the boys across the network about how to make the wheels go around without getting the needle.
Well, I certainly could use some advice, Ted. I've already discovered that being a disc jockey isn't like riding a hobby horse, even if I could make the weight. For one thing, I'd like to ask my colleagues of the turntable just how much platter music and about how much chin music makes a good record program. That is, would 75% music and 25% talk add up about right, or 90-10, or what?
Plenty of music, sure, but when it's you doing the talking, Paul, you better plan at least 25% talk. Your listeners are going to want to hear a lot of comment and reminiscence from you, along with the disc you play.
There's another thing I have an awful nightmare about. What do you do, for instance, when you spend 3 minutes doing a real build-up for, say, Irving Berlin's Blue Skies, and then the man puts the needle down, and out comes stormy weather?
Well, that happens to everyone at least once, Pop. And the thing to do is to just let it storm until the wrong record is played through. Then kid your way out of it. You can always follow up with Blue Skies, only the second time make sure it is Blue Skies.
Well, I really appreciate any tips that come my way right now. So I hope all you fellas will consider yourselves charter members of the Paul Whiteman Club. And if you have any ideas or suggestions, I hope you'll send them along. Oh, I'd really appreciate it, and I really mean it.
With your ear for what's good in music, Pop, I know the Paul Whiteman Club is going to be another triumph and a lot of fun for you and everybody else connected with it.
Thanks a lot, Paul Whiteman, and all the 197 members of our disc jockey convention. If there were a few little pauses here and there across the network, or if one or two of us talked on top of each other, it's because there were so many of us all trying to talk at once and have a good time. I'm sure the listeners will forgive us and know that this was an interesting experiment for everybody. It's been grand having you all with us, and I'm sure the recording angel is going to stand by the Paul Whiteman Club and all your shows, so your needles will always be sharp, and you'll never break any records except those you've already broken by rounding out bigger and better radio programs. To all the disc jockeys on all ABC stations, good wishes and good luck. And now here's Ernie Chappell with a little spinning of his own.
Thank you, Ted. Friends, I wish you all a happy holiday over the glorious 4th. And I suggest you take your favorite programs with you wherever you go. Get a Westinghouse 148. For here's the ideal portable radio for vacationers with every feature you'd choose yourself. Sturdy, yet light in weight, the Westinghouse 148 portable looks like a smart piece of luggage. And better still, a 148 brings you more stations with clearer tone. For the 148 is packed with extra Westinghouse power, has double the sensitivity of similar pre-war sets. And what's more, there's no wait or warm-up on AC or DC house current or on batteries. You get instant operation. Yes, and the 148's built-in loop antenna cuts static down to the vanishing point. The dial is easy to operate, easy to read, and a telltale indicator always shows you when the radio is on. Ah, it's a fine companion, the 148. And yet, for all it gives you, the cost is surprisingly low. So own a better portable radio. Enjoy the extra pleasure, the extra service you get with the wonderful Westinghouse 148. Be sure to ask for it by number, the 148. Listen, and you'll buy Westinghouse. Now, Ted, all by yourself come in for a word about tomorrow, huh?
Well, tomorrow, Chappie, we're going to do our broadcast from Sunbury, Pennsylvania. You see, this week, Sunbury is celebrating its 175th anniversary with pageants and picnics and ball games and everything. And tomorrow, I'm going to help celebrate in a hometown story from the heart of Sunbury with the queen of the celebration as my guest. It'll be a real American story from Sunbury tomorrow. Goodbye.
Ted Malone, brought to you again today by Westinghouse, maker of more than 30 million appliances for the American home, comes to you every weekday, Monday through Friday at this same time. Until tomorrow, then, this is Ernest Chappell saying goodbye for Westinghouse. Death to insects, whether they fly or crawl. That's the Westinghouse Bug Bomb with the safer combination of pyrethrum and fast-killing DDT. The Westinghouse Bug Bomb fits the palm of one hand. One finger controls the spray. Get the genuine Bug Bomb that's safer, cleaner, in the handy light green container. The Bug Bomb is made only by Westinghouse.
This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.